Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. And now, Tider Insider TV.
And good evening, everyone, and welcome in to another edition of Tider Insider Television. Right here from our WVOA 23 studio inside the Digital Media Center at Bryant-Denny Stadium, I'm Gary Harris, separated from Rodney Orr as we continue to work at a safe social distance during this COVID-19 pandemic. All right, we're going to kick it off, or I should say tip it off, because we're talking basketball first tonight. Alabama's off to one of its best starts ever in the Southeastern Conference, and this team is actually in action as we speak. Alabama is ranked in the top 10 in the Associated Press poll for the first time since the 2006-2007. They're also in the top 10 in the coaches poll. Alabama hasn't lost a game since mid-December and remain undefeated at 8-0 in the SEC. Right now they're playing Kentucky, going for the sweep. They beat the Wildcats 85-65 just 2 weeks ago in Rupp Arena in Lexington. It was the worst ever loss for John Calipari as the Kentucky head coach at home. Now Alabama's the highest ranked SEC team, and only Missouri and Tennessee are also ranked. Right now, Alabama leads Kentucky, although the Wildcats have come back. They were down 17-8. It's now 19-16 Alabama. But this Tide team is on a roll. Here's Herb Jones talking about tonight's matchup.
I feel like Kentucky will come in and they're going to give us everything they have because, you know, we went up there and we won. So anytime a team loses at home, they're going to come in with everything they have.
All right, Rodney, let's discuss the start of this season. And there's a lot of basketball still to be played. But you can't knock 8-0, going for 9-0 tonight. And the last time that Alabama beat Kentucky twice in the same season was way back in 1989. They're already doing some things that they haven't done since 1986-87. That's the last time they started with this good a record in the conference. And it's also the first time, as I mentioned, to be ranked in the AP Top 10 since 2007. Rod, this team's playing very, very well. And they're trying to follow up, it looks like, what the football team did and try to go unbeaten in SEC play.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing, actually. You know, Gary, I think when you look at this team last week against LSU, loading up the threes, it was 30-4 before you knew it. You know, before the LSU fans could actually sit down, I think. So this team is really shooting the ball well from three. And the thing that really impressed me, though, was after the game against LSU, coming back, could have been a really difficult game against Mississippi State. You knew it was going to be a potential letdown. There's been seasons past where we've seen Alabama come off a big win, come home, and kind of fold. This team showed a lot of mental toughness, I thought, against Mississippi State. I think that's something that when you start looking at a team and saying, does this team have some championship qualities, that's certainly one of them.
Yeah, Alabama gutted it out on Saturday against Mississippi State, as we said, playing Kentucky tonight. And a big game this Saturday, Rodney, in terms of perception. They go outside of the league to play in the SEC Big 12 Challenge in Norman against number 24 Oklahoma. Now, there's a lot of other SEC teams playing as well. There's going to be 10 games total, so it's not just Alabama. But you know how this works in football a lot of times. The SEC's the mighty SEC. They'll look at other conferences and say, yeah, but you're in a weak conference. If Alabama doesn't beat Oklahoma, especially if they beat Kentucky tonight, I can already hear the narrative, and you can too. Well, they lost 3 games before they got in conference play. They lost to Oklahoma. The SEC's not very good.
Well, maybe so, but that can be short-lived as well. I mean, you know, eventually, you know, as you move into March, move into the March Madness, the NCAA tournament, all of those things, the narratives change, Gary. I mean, people are going to say what they're going to say, but certainly your point is well taken. I mean, it's a great opportunity for Alabama to go on the road against a team, a quality team, number 24 ranked in the country, and go on the road and get a big win against a non-conference team. So, you know, certainly I think that it'll be a tremendous opportunity for this Alabama basketball team.
Alabama also has a showdown coming up against number 12 Missouri in Columbia on February 9th, as right now the Tigers are the closest team to Alabama in the standings. Missouri's playing at Auburn this week. Well, now it's time for Coach Talk. Alabama shot up through the rankings this week, and while it's good motivation for the team, head coach Nate Oates doesn't want it to have too much of an effect on the team. He doesn't want it to change their overall approach to competition.
Whether teams are hunting you or not, you got to maintain the mindset that you're still the hunter. Like, you got to go after teams. Like, you got to come out with an intensity level that they have to match your intensity level. So, you know, hopefully we can maintain that mindset, even though we've climbed up into the top 10, which is great for our guys. I'm not sure how long it's been since they've been in the top 10 here. It seems like it's been a little bit. But our guys are playing well. They're playing together. They're showing great leadership. The chemistry's good. Like, everything's good around the program to the point where these guys deserve to be ranked in the top 10.
They do deserve it. But now, as he alluded to, Coach Oates alluded to, Rodney, you do go from being the hunter to the hunted. Now all they have to do, the basketball players, is check with some of their football buddies about what's that like to be the hunted every week. But I think Coach Oates has got a good handle on it. You heard it there in that soundbite, Rodney. You come out with a level of intensity, regardless of what your record is, your ranking, that the other team has to match your intensity. I think that's kind of the way Alabama does it in football, and I think that's the way you approach it. You don't worry about what you're ranked or what your record is or who you're playing. You try to be at that level all the time, regardless.
Right. I mean, that's exactly what he said. I mean, just because all of a sudden you're 8-0 and you're one of the hottest teams in the country, your mindset doesn't change, Gary. Sometimes you see teams, when they start having success, they lose that. You know, they kind of fold under that being the hunted kind of mentality. I think that this, what you just heard from Nate Oates, was a very positive way to, kind of create that kind of mindset in his team that we really don't change, regardless of the situation. We want to be aggressive. We want to come out and make the other team match our intensity. So I think that's really something that look forward to seeing this Alabama basketball team if they can continue to do that.
Rodney, don't you sense as well that it's just this team's more comfortable? I mean, when Coach Oates came in here last year, he knew how he wanted to play. He said, this is the way we're going to play. We don't deviate, regardless of the personnel, regardless of any situations. We're going to play the way we're going to play. But it was quite an adjustment for the players as opposed to what they had done under Avery Johnson. Now you can tell they're just more comfortable, not just on the offensive end, with how fast they want to play and how much they want to shoot, but defensively too.
I think too, Gary, he's changed his roster a little bit. He's kind of had an opportunity to get his system, his mentality, the way they want to do things. They've kind of been able to take some time over the last season, and then now into his second season. I think sometimes you have that adjustment period from the one coach to the next, the different systems, and now I think you're starting to see that what we're starting to see right now is his system is really starting to kind of show the fruits of what they've done.
All right, we'll update you on the Alabama-Kentucky score a little bit later on in the show. All right, we're going to change topics now, and Rodney, I know you remember where you were at. I certainly remember where I was at on this date in 1983, January 26, when I got the news that legendary Alabama football coach Paul William Bear Bryant had passed away at the age of 69, according to newspaper reports at the time. Coach Bryant entered the Druid City Hospital in Tuscaloosa on Tuesday night, January 25th, complaining of chest pains. Dr. William Hill, the attending physician, said that Coach Bryant suffered a massive heart attack at 1:24 p.m. on Wednesday, January 26, while undergoing x-rays. At the time of his death, Bryant's 323 victories were the most in major college football history. Rodney, it was a day that if you live in this state, whether you were an Alabama fan or not, and you were alive at the time, you remember it, and it still resonates every time January 26th rolls around. Outside of football, this man was an icon in this state, period.
Yeah, absolutely. Not only in this state. Listen, I grew up a huge Alabama fan in South Texas, originally from Mobile, but still grew up in South Texas. And you know what? Didn't have a bigger hero, bigger, as you mentioned, icon. Everywhere you went in Texas, people knew if you were an Alabama fan, what was the first thing they said? Bear Bryant. I mean, that's what you associated with Alabama football. He was known worldwide, Gary, in that regard. So, and you talked about when this happened. I certainly remember where I was. I was a few hundred yards away at Reese Pfeiffer coming out of a lab when we found out that Coach Bryant had passed away, and it was certainly a very stunning moment.
One other quick thought. The success that Coach Saban is having, which is so welcomed by Alabama fans, has led to the discussion, who's better, Coach Saban or Coach Bryant? I don't even like to look at it like that, and I'll say this. The success that Coach Bryant had paved the way for Coach Saban to have this type of success, just like the success that Wallace Wade and Coach Bryant's coach, Frank Thomas, had. You know, Coach Bryant looked up to Frank Thomas. Tradition and history doesn't guarantee you anything going forward, Rodney, but it does give you a barometer of what can be accomplished, and it also leads to a passionate fan base, people that care about football, that always want to try to get it back to that level. So I think Coach Bryant's success while Coach Saban's been spectacular, his success has helped Coach Saban get to where he's at. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, certainly the expectations, what this program has always desired, even before Coach Saban got here. I mean, look, there's a standard here at Alabama, a standard of expectation, the fans, the passion, all of the things here. You just needed the right coach to come into place. And, obviously, you talked about Wallace Wade, you talk about Frank Thomas, you talk about Gene Stallings, so obviously Coach Bryant. They all laid the groundwork for Nick Saban here to come into this program and have the kind of success that he's had.
No doubt about it. We remember Coach Bryant on this, the 38th anniversary of his passing. Well, still to come on Tider Insider Television, National Signing Day is right around the corner, like next week. Plus, Alabama football is rebuilding the offense, and to do that, they're having to add some coaches after losing some. We'll have the news on that, and we'll be getting to your phone calls, emails, and tweets. The phone number is always 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. There's the email address, or you can tweet at us as well. Use that hashtag TITV. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. The award-winning Tider Insider TV will return right after this. Doug Marrone officially has joined Alabama's coaching staff as the O-line coach. He just spent 4 seasons as the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, took them to the AFC Championship game in 2017. Marrone also had stints as the head coach of the Buffalo Bills and at his alma mater, Syracuse University. He knows offensive football. He knows offensive line play. I mean, he's been the offensive line coach at Tennessee, at Georgia, with the Jets. Been around. He's also good friends with Bill O'Brien, the new offensive coordinator. So this looks like a good hire. It keeps that NFL pipeline to Alabama continuing. Welcome back to TITV. I'm Gary Harris, sitting across the studio from Tider Insider's Rodney Orr. Officially, Alabama football still has one coaching slot left to fill, but the new running backs coach appears to be a not so big a secret right now. It looks like Alabama has targeted North Carolina's Robert Gillespie to be its next RB coach. Gillespie has experience in the SEC, having played at the University of Florida, also coached at South Carolina and Tennessee, and is from Hattiesburg, Mississippi, so he's from this part of the country. Of course, they got to get a tight ends and special teams coach as well. But Robert Gillespie, if he indeed is named as the running backs coach, Rodney, what do you think of this hire?
Well, first of all, I remember when he was a recruit, Gary, himself, coming out of high school and went to Florida, played for Steve Spurrier, was a great versatile back and all of those things. And he's one of the best recruiters in the country, also a tremendous running backs coach. You mentioned that. He had 2 guys that put up really good numbers this year at North Carolina. There you see him coached under Butch Jones at Tennessee for several years. So he's got a great track record. And again, Gary, when you're talking about coaching these days, coaching in the college ranks, certainly the coaching, the position itself is important, but also the recruiting, and he is noted as one of the top recruiters in the country.
Absolutely. Again, that's not official yet, but it does appear that he is the leader in the clubhouse, and Alabama still looking for a tight ends and special teams coach as well. Well, National Signing Day is a week from tomorrow, and Alabama, of course, is rolling. The only unsigned player in the class, everybody else is signed from December other than running back Kamar Wheaton, the 5-star from Garland, Texas, #1 rated running back in the 2021 recruiting cycle. Rodney, this is a guy that had looked like was going to go to Oklahoma, then he committed to Alabama. Now Steve Sarkisian's at Texas. Texas is trying to recruit him. How good do you feel about Kamar Wheaton sticking in this class?
Yeah, first of all, Gary, I really think Texas has reached out to him. I don't think he's shown a lot of interest in Texas right now, but Oklahoma continues to recruit him. I know talking to sources there, they say that the running backs coach, DeMarco Murray, you remember him, great running back in the NFL, played for Oklahoma. He's recruiting Kamar, and I think that they're still trying to maintain contact with him and would like to, have an opportunity to get him. Tremendous running back, though, 5-star, as you mentioned, out of Garland, Texas.
All right, Ronnie, Alabama still has a few players on its radar, even though it's got the #1 class already signed. You got the receiver, Brian Thomas Jr. from Louisiana, the safety, Terrion Arnold from Florida, and the defensive end, J.Tutu Maloa from Washington State. Alabama continues to recruit these 3 players. Are there scholarships available for them?
Well, that's a great question. That's something that Nick Saban's always said, hey, listen, nobody really knows the scholarship situation around here but me. So I know that he's always going to have that checkbook balance. So don't really worry about that. But they are recruiting those 3 guys, as you mentioned. Brian Thomas, outstanding wide receiver. Of course, Bama has 4 wide receivers already signed, 4 of the top 12 wide receivers in the country. Great year in that regard. Terry and Arnold, tremendous safety prospect, Gary. You know that he's a high priority out of Tallahassee, Florida. You know, talking to several sources over the last week, this is probably an Alabama-Georgia battle, with Alabama seemingly having the inside track right now. Again, you know, the stretch run coming up here over the next week. Florida's also in the mix there. And you mentioned JT Tuimoloau. I know there's some people that say it's Alabama-Ohio State, with Ohio State maybe having a slight edge. Talk to some people that think Bama's definitely right in the middle of it. Now, he may not decide. He may not actually sign, Gary, until very, very late in the spring, right before the end of the signing period. So don't be surprised if he delays. But I'm telling you, watch out for USC here, too. I think they've gotten very strongly in the mix.
All right. And keep in mind, next Tuesday night, we'll have our regular Tighter Insider at 6:30. But then on Wednesday, we will have our signing class special at 7 o'clock next Wednesday night, when we'll recap the entire 2021 signing class for Alabama. Well, Reese's Senior Bowl week is underway. This morning, players had their measurements recorded: height, weight, wingspan, arm length, hand size, all those things that they do. Alabama's Devontae Smith did not get any of his measurements recorded. The 2020 Heisman Trophy winner did not take part in any on-field practice, and he won't this week, but he is down there talking to teams, but decided to wait to have his measurements taken at the Pro Day at Alabama coming up later this year. Smith's Alabama teammates are divided between the American team and the national team. The American team, coached by the Carolina Panthers, includes Mac Jones, Thomas Fletcher, Deontay Brown, Alex Leatherwood, and Landon Dickerson. The national team, meanwhile, coached by the Miami Dolphins, has running back Najee Harris on its squad. Still to come on Tighter Insider TV, basketball isn't the only Bama sport making leaps in the polls. Stay tuned to find out what we're talking about. And up next, we'll be welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. I encourage you to go ahead and call in now, 205-348-9882. We'll be back with phone calls and emails next here on Tighter Insider TV. Alabama softball and baseball, each ranked in their respective preseason top 25s. Softball is currently ranked at number 8 in 3 separate polls: the National Fast Pitch Coaches Association, D1 Softball, and USA Softball polls. Baseball comes in at number 25 on the Baseball America preseason top 25 list. Both teams begin competition next month. And a quick update on Alabama basketball. It's a close one against Kentucky. The Tide leads at 32-30 late in the first half. Sounds like this one may go down to the wire. We'll see. All right, let's head out to the phone lines and talk to some of our viewers tonight. First up is John over in Bessemer. Hey, John.
Gary, what's going on, buddy?
You know it, pal.
Yeah, man, Alabama had a good year, didn't they?
About as good as you can get, man. I don't know that you can do better than 13-0.
Perfect year.
I agree with you, man. I'll call and find out how many players can we sign this year, man, for next year.
Okay, John, we got you. All right, brother. Well, Rodney said it earlier. You know, they seem to be pretty close to full, but Nick Saban says, you know, I'm the only one that really knows what we've got available. So, based on history, Rod, and I don't know what's going to happen next Wednesday, but based on history, the players that you mentioned, if they want to come, history tells us that Alabama will somehow manage the numbers to get quality football players here on scholarship.
Yeah. Well, you know, again, I think so. But realistically, maybe 1 or 2. You know, Gary, again, the numbers are tight, as you mentioned. And you know, you've got a lot of competition out there recruiting those guys. You talked about some of the top players in the country when you're talking about Brian Thomas, Terry and Arnold, JT Tuimoloau. And don't forget, too, Gary, how about the transfer portal? There's some guys in the transfer portal that I know are certainly interested in Alabama. Henry To'oTo'o, the great linebacker at Tennessee, is one of those guys. Arik Gilbert was a fantastic tight end at LSU as a true freshman that I know has shown some interest or has displayed some interest in terms of some of the things that he said. So we'll see what happens.
All right, thanks for the phone call. We're going to get to some more phone calls and emails here on Tighter Insider TV. Again, there's the number, 205-348-9882. Phone lines are open, so stick with us. We'll be right back after this. When Bama takes on Auburn, it's big. Gymnastics the same way, and the Tide rolled this past Friday night. A season-high 196.925 as they blew out the Tigers at Coleman Coliseum. Alabama's ranked 8th in the nation. Alabama travels to Lexington to face Kentucky this Friday night. Everybody's ranked in the top 10, it seems like, around here. It's good stuff. All right, quick update. Alabama basketball leads Kentucky 35-32 at the half. Let's get to a phone call. Rusty is in Demopolis. Hey, Rusty.
Hey, old buddy, how y'all doing tonight?
Doing great, my friend.
Okay, y'all probably remember I used to call in all the time about a kicker. We have had a phenomenal kicker. What can be better? Perfect on the season. The extra points, the field goal. Now, I've heard rumor that he's transferring out. Is that true?
No, that's not true. Joseph Bulovas, who was the kicker last year after Riker got hurt, is in the transfer portal. Will Riker didn't miss a kick. Not a single extra point, not a field goal, Rodney. I think he's pretty happy here kicking at the University of Alabama.
Yeah, what a job he did. I mean, after years of struggles, I mean, inconsistencies, again, some of those guys kicked really well at times, but there were a lot of inconsistencies, Gary. But there was nothing inconsistent about Will Riker this year.
Ain't bad if you like them perfect. All right, let's get to a quick email before we go to the break. This is going to be from Pat in Tuscaloosa. When is that national championship celebration? Will there be a ring ceremony? Pat, everything's on hold due to the pandemic. We don't know. We'll keep you informed. If something is announced, we will have it for you. But as of right now, nothing has been announced. We'll be back to wrap up this edition of TITV, and we thank you for the phone calls and emails right after this. Alabama freshman pitcher Connor Pruitt from a year ago. He's still a freshman because they got the season cut short. He was phenomenal last year. In 4 starts, he struck out 25, didn't give up an earned run. That's why he's a preseason All-American. 21 innings pitched, no earned runs last year. This guy's special. This Alabama baseball team's got a chance to be really, really good. All right, that is going to do it for the program tonight. We thank you for tuning in. Don't forget, if you missed any of tonight's show, you can catch the replay this evening at 10:30 after the news at 10 or online anytime at WVUA23.com. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching. Good night, everybody, and roll tide.